Hello. Having recently thoroughly enjoyed myself watching the Eastern Angles Theatre Company's production of a play called Ragnarok, which was based upon Norse myth, and if you get a chance to see it, do, because it is absolutely brilliant. I decided today I would go and tell you a story from Norse myth. This particular one is a story about the god of the forests, Frey, lord of the elves, and the way he fell in love with a giantess called Gerd. Long ago, in the ancient times, Frey came upon the great halls of Asgard and there found the throne of Odin unexpectedly unoccupied. Temptation rather got the better of Frey, and he snuck up and sat in the great throne of Odin, and such is the power of that chair that anyone so sitting in it can see all 9 worlds simultaneously. Frey could take in Midgard, he could see Muspelheim, he could see Niflheim. But it was in the land of the giants that he saw something so unexpected. He called to Skirnir, his servant, and asked him, "Who on earth is that woman in the land of the giants?" And he described her perfectly, so beautiful and elegant, with 3 great long golden braided tresses, and a smile upon her face. Skirnir thought and said, that sounds like the giantess Gerd. "A giantess," said Frey. "Really? A beautiful giantess? Has anyone ever heard of such a thing before? Normally they have faces like the back ends of a horse." "No, indeed, it is a giantess," said Skirnir. "By human standards, by the standards of gods, of Aesir and Varnir, she is beautiful. But by the standards of her fellow giants, she is hideous. A malformed, not a wart, not a lump, not a scar, not a great clump of hair sprouting out here and there, not a set of fangs, nothing. Which is why her father keeps her locked up behind very, very high walls, so that she cannot wander abroad and bring shame to him by being ridiculed by the other giants." "She must be so lonely," said Frey, "and so beautiful and so elegant and so charming. Never in all my life have I clapped eyes upon a woman who stirred my heart so instantaneously. I want you to journey to the land of the giants, to take gifts," and at once he produced all sorts of wonderful things that his servant could take. "Woo her, charm her, seduce her, convince her that she wants to meet with me. And I will do the rest. I will win her hand myself. But first that initial meeting must be arranged." Skirnir said, "I would be honoured to do as you ask, my lord, but the land of the giants is a fearfully long way away. How am I to get there?" "Worry not," said Frey. "You may take my horse, which has the power to ride over water and fire and air as easily as it rides upon land." "Thank you, my lord," said the servant, "but I fear to go into the land of the giants. They're a fierce and terrible bunch. If one of them catches me, they will stamp me into the ground and then chew up my remains. What am I to do?" "Ah," said Frey, "I will give you my sword, my very own sword," and he withdrew it from its sheath and presented it to the manservant and said, "Skirnir, if you woo her and she comes to me and takes my hand in marriage, you may keep that sword." Skirnir was amazed and at once leapt upon the back of the horse and rode over land, over lakes, over oceans, through fire, leaping in the air above mountains until at last he landed outside a great stone wall in the land of the giants. And he could hear a woman's laughter coming from the other side of the great stone wall. And looking around, he saw an old man tending to the goats, and he said to the old man, "That woman who laughs, who is it?" "Ah," said the old man, "that is one of the giantesses. That is the terrible Gerd. Whatever you do, do not ask to meet her. She is hideous beyond all reckoning. That's why her father keeps her locked up behind these huge walls." "Nonetheless," said Skirnir, "meet her I will." And he clambered back upon the horse and commanded it to leap that great high wall and land in the courtyard, and it created such a clattering with its hooves on the cobblestones as it landed that Gerd looked out of her window and saw a man on a horseback, a tiny little man on a horseback, walking around on the horse. Well, the horse was walking around, he wasn't. And she said to her handmaiden, "What goes on? Someone has just landed on a horse in the courtyard." And she sent the handmaiden down. The handmaiden, who was a giantess herself and as ugly as any female giant could ever dream of being, lumbered into the courtyard and said, "Who on earth are you? What on earth do you want? The lord of this house will be returning from his travels soon. If he finds you here, he will grind your bones to a pulp. I come on behalf of Frey, one of the great Vanir, who wishes to woo your mistress's hand, to charm her, to win her over. Now," and drawing the sword, he pointed it at the giantess, "you will take me to her without any further ado." And at that, well, what could the handmaiden do but bring him into the house? And he came to meet with the beautiful giantess. "Gerd, you are a lonely woman, are you not?" She couldn't deny it. No giant would clap eyes upon her given half the choice. "I have good news for you. If you have longed for wedding, for marriage, for children, there is a man who will have you." "Really?" said Gerd. "Who could that be? Who would have me? I have met no man." "But a man has seen you. One of the gods themselves." "Ah!" said Gerd. "My father has told me of the monstrous nature of the gods, of how they are constantly slaughtering us giants with terrible evil schemes to trap us. Frey is not like that, my lady. He has fallen in love with you, and this is no trap. He wants to marry you. He brings gifts to you." And Skirnir, reaching into the satchel containing these gifts, brought out 11 solid gold apples and presented them to the giantess. "These wonderful, beautiful gifts he gives to you. My father has so much gold in this house, I do not need any more. This gift means nothing to me," said Gerd. "A gift of magic, then." And he reached and he brought out a great ring, a great torque, an arm torque, and said, "This ring, every 8 nights, causes another 8 rings to drop from it. This I give to you. My father has much magic in this house. I do not need more magic." "Well, if you will not take gifts, perhaps there are other means to persuade you." And at this he withdrew his sword again and threatened her with it and said, "I will have your head if you do not agree to my master's requests." "Your threats mean nothing to me, little man," said the giantess. "Kill me if you will. It will be the end of my long and lonely life. What care I for your threats of death? Is this the nature of the gods, that they would murder a woman if she does not wish to marry them?" Skirnir put the sword away and withdrew his wand and said, "This has a magic all of its own. I will lay such curses upon you with this that you will be hideous to man, to god, and to giant. You will be plagued by fiends and devils ripping and tearing at you. You will live a life of such unmitigated misery that you will wish I had cut off your head when I made the offer." And such were the threats that the little man made to the giantess that eventually she agreed that she would meet with this god, this Vanir, this thing that she had heard such terrible, terrible tales about from her father. She would meet him 9 nights hence in one of the great and lonely woods where the giants themselves seldom if ever went, for she did not wish the shame to either be seen by a giant or to be seen in the company of a god. At once Skirnir rushed out of the house, got back on the horse, and made the journey all the way back to Asgard to bring the great good news to Frey, who was so happy, so content. The trees blossomed for a second time that year. Each day, he said, was like 5 days, each night like 9 nights, waiting and waiting and waiting for the time when he could meet and be with his beloved. But, said Skirnir, such is the nature of anticipation and love. We must all go through it. We have all been through it. And now, my mighty Lord Frey, it is your turn. The 9 nights came and went, and at length Frey made the great long journey himself to the woods, just as Gerd made the great long journey from her father's house, sneaking out into the middle of the night, for she did not want her father to know what was going on, into the woods itself, and she sat there on a tree stump, shivering and shaking, fearful of the monstrous thing that was coming towards her. And from the east the light grew and grew and grew, and she thought the dawn had come early, and in some respects perhaps it had. For coming towards her through the trees, the light resolved itself into the shape of the most handsome, stunning, charming man she had ever seen in her life. For Frey is as much tree as man, as much animal as tree. He shifts and turns and shapes between them all. Oh, whilst some humans might be terrified by such a spectacle, to a giantess he was as handsome as the day is long. And she fell in love with him as surely as he had fallen in love with her, and they were together up until the day of Ragnarok, when Frey had cause to regret giving away his sword to Skirnir. But that is another story in the end of this one. Thank you.